Dr. Brett here. I just finished a lecture series on memory. So the last couple of videos I've shared with you have been memory related because there's some really interesting things that I've learned about it. And the one that I want to share with you today reminded me of Jurassic Park. Now, if you remember the original movie Jurassic Park, they talked about taking DNA from mosquitoes that would, like these fossilized mosquitoes, and they would take that it was dinosaur DNA, but there were gaps in the DNA. It wasn't complete. And what did they do in order to bridge these gaps? They took frog DNA, which I guess had enough similarities that they could bridge the gaps and they could make these dinosaurs. Okay? Well, as it turns out, our memory actually works in a similar way. We don't remember our memories. We have to recreate them every time we want to remember something. Now, when this happens, when we recreate a memory, we may not recreate it exactly the way it was. In fact, that can happen pretty often, and two people can have this, be at the same place, see the same experience, and remember it differently. Okay? So one of the ways that can happen is when we're recreating our memory, when we're experiencing something. We've got our memory as like a camcorder. It's recording, so to speak, and but because we don't want to take up too much space in our hard drive in our brain, essentially, just like I got to clear out old videos and things on my phone. The brain has some shortcuts that it uses, so it's not really recording every moment of your life per se. It takes shortcuts, and one of the ways they will do that is by bridging gaps in your memory. Or it won't remember everything that's going on, and it's like, okay, I'll just bridge the gaps with what's called semantic memory. Semantic memory is your knowledge of the world. It's your knowledge of facts, and it's the generalizations and the different things that you'll make. Okay, so you've got your episodic memory. That's your dinosaur DNA, and you'll bridge the gaps with your semantic memory. It's like the frog DNA. Okay, now, one of the things that I was thinking about that could be really interesting in my practice, I make it a point. The mind-body connection I see is really important, and our emotional state, our mental state, and the way we see the world, that our stress can have a huge impact on our physiology. Well, if someone has been trained to think negatively, they see the world in a negative, pessimistic way, then they can color their memories. So this is like their semantic knowledge is everything is bad in their semantic memory. They can color their episodic memories, and this in turn will actually reinforce the semantic generalizations that the world is bad, that everything's negative. So two people could have a very similar experience, and they could see it very differently depending on how their semantic memory is programmed. Well, there are a lot of conscious things you can do to program your semantic memory. And so, whether that's reading positive books and applying some of the things that they teach in there. I'm not necessarily a fan of positive thinking across the board. A lot of times it's like painting over rust. It's like a lie. And so there's ways that you can do honest thinking that I think can be really productive and that can work really well. Okay? And then there's a lot of different mind-body medicine, which I apply in practice, which a lot of practitioners do. For me, getting holistic health or really any healing work is incomplete without some mind-body component. To me, it has to be addressed. And so by doing this, like I said, it can release tremendous stress off of your body. There are some other applications and of this memory fallibility, and that it can take place in the courtroom as well. As it turns out, lawyers have been trained to know, they understand a lot of these fallacies of the memory, and there are rules in the courtroom, such as you're not allowed to lead a witness, that can try and prevent and keep the record as straight as possible. But yeah, I found that really interesting. I wanted to share with you. That's how you piece together memories of your life. Yeah. So and in that respect, you can actually change how you saw your past. And one of the main ways is if you see yourself as a victim your whole life, then that's what you're going to see in your past and your present. It's going to color everything. So your perspective is going to really change. And you don't. I met a woman. She was a speaker. Her name was Mary Miller, and she always started off her lectures and she said, "My name's Mary Miller, and I've never had a bad day." Well, of course she's had bad days, and it turned out she had a pretty abusive childhood, but she had programmed her mind in such a way that she didn't see it that way. She didn't have to keep suffering for what happened in the past. And she could look upon her life, and she felt like she had a good life, which is what we all want. We want to feel peace and contentment about our lives. So it's in your hand. There are tools that are available for that. I wasn't intending to go into therapeutics today, but I think it was a good segue, actually. So that's memory, and there's some things that you can do to improve your human experience. Cheers.